Hi guys, just want to do a quick guide on the fastest way to farm the Afterglow sword. And so I'll just run through the main items that you need and the fastest way to get them. So first things first, as with basically all farms, you want to farm these top 3 components first and get them crafting. Reason being, they have a 2-hour craft time, whereas the code doesn't need crafting. So what you do, you'll get these 3 crafting and then it sort of gives you 2 hours to go out and farm the code, and that'll save you a little bit of time all in all. So firstly, for the polymer, you're going to want to ignore pattern 002, reason being the drop chance is tiny compared to the hard modes, so you'll just be wasting a lot more time going for common. And in terms of the best one, you're going to want to go for pattern 62, which uses by far one of the best void fusion reactors. Reason being, it uses monomer as a primary shard, which is easily the quickest shard to farm for, and the boss fight itself for unlocking the amorphous material is super easy. It's just 2 yellow health bosses. They aren't particularly tanky, they don't do particularly too much damage either, and so nice and easy. I won't waste your time with pattern 122, reason being is the boss fight itself is just a complete pain compared to pattern 62. Pattern 100 is an okay alternative because the shards used are also very good, but the boss fight itself is more of a pain. It has an immunity phase and stuff like that, so it's going to take you much longer to do, so I'll just stick with pattern 62. So for the next part, the fibre, same as with the polymer, just ignore the normal mode, the drop chance just isn't worth your time. And so the best one is going to be pattern 71 AA. So reason being is it uses polymer and monomer. Polymer is probably the second quickest to farm, and again monomer is the best, so you can't really go wrong with that. The boss fight does have an immunity phase and does have spheres, but the boss itself is actually quite squishy and doesn't really do too much damage, so you can actually get through it very quickly. And then pattern 89 I wouldn't bother wasting your time with because it's not the best shard, and the boss fight itself is actually pretty terrible. It has sort of a freeze mechanic and it's quite tanky, so don't waste your time with 89, just stick with pattern 71 AA. And so for the next item, the tube, you're going to want to go for pattern 56. So the reason why you want to go for pattern 56 as opposed to one of the void fusion reactors is you always want to try and prioritize the intercept battle amorphous materials over void fusion reactors. Void fusion reactors have sort of 2 layers of RNG. You've got the layer of RNG of whether or not you get the actual amorphous material from the outpost mission, and then you have of course the RNG of whether or not you get the item, the amorphous material. Whereas when it comes to intercept battles, you are guaranteed to get an amorphous material from the sort of corresponding dungeon mission, and you can actually guarantee yourself 2 amorphous materials per run, so it sort of doubles up how efficient it is. So you only have that 1 layer of RNG of whether or not you get the item out of the amorphous material, and whenever you can sort of cut out RNG, you want to do that. It's just going to make your farm way more consistent and way quicker overall. So on top of that, pattern 56 is also just an extremely quick pattern to farm for. The dungeon where you get pattern 56 only takes around 4 minutes, and so if you are messing around with the difficulty score so that you get 2 amorphous materials per run, you're talking 2 minutes per amorphous material. You can't really get much quicker than that. And an execution itself as a boss is really easy. It's one of the easiest hard mode intercept battles. You don't want to do pattern 127 because it requires going through Molten Fortress, and you're just going to be wasting a lot of time if you're trying to do this through public lobbies. So regardless of how well you do, you are just sometimes going to fail when you're doing it in public lobbies. It's just sort of the way it goes with public lobbies and some of the harder intercept battles. So if you are someone who prefers to farm the void fusion reactors, again overall they are going to be a slower farm than if you were to go for pattern 56, but I know it can get boring if you're just sort of farming the same thing over and over again. And so in that case I would suggest farming pattern 111. It doesn't have the outright best shards in organic, but organic is far from the worst. Unfortunately, inorganic is a secondary shard, so you don't need too many. And the boss fight itself is actually really good. It's just a couple of yellow health bosses, so you get through it really quickly. Again, not as quick as if you were to just go through pattern 56, but this is far from the worst. And then I would just completely avoid pattern 81 AA because it's not the best shards, and it also is a bit of a pain of a boss to fight, so don't waste your time with that. And lastly, for the code, you're definitely going to want to farm pattern 79. Reason being is this is by far the fastest amorphous material to farm for. It's around about 5 minutes per run. So again, if you're sort of playing around with your difficulty score, you can get that to 2.5 minutes per amorphous material. Whereas the other farms, so 66, 94 AA and 107, they take around about 9 to 10 minutes per run. Slight difference between them, but it's around that 9 to 10 minute mark, so almost twice as slow to do it. So don't waste your time. And of course the Devera itself is probably the quickest hard mode intercept boss to fight. There's so many builds out there, you can get it done in under a minute. So in terms of the pain point items, the first one being common carbon activator, this is actually a very nice easy farm to do. So you'll just do normal mode, the shelter, and you do want to do it on normal mode, and all you do, it takes around about a minute if that per run to get around about 5 per run. You'll sort of run through and you'll get to a room where a few waves spawn in, and then the last wave in that room will have a yellow health boss that drops this item, and all you do, you'll just sort of back out of the mission and restart and go back in again. The only thing I suggest is do this on private lobbies, because of course you don't want to be backing out if you're playing with sort of public lobbies and sort of ruining the run for everyone else. So the next pain point item, the pure energy residue. This is just simply through encrypted storage boxes, so I would advise using Enzo. And my preferred spot for this is up here, defense line. You'll sort of just spawn in, turn to your right, and there's a room where 2 encrypted vaults can spawn straight there. And then next, the cooling metallic foil. Again, this is also just encrypted storage boxes, so hop on Enzo. And my preferred spawn location is in Moorgrave Basin, and it's just this spawn point up here. You'll spawn in and there's quite a few spawns, so a couple are in front of you and a couple to your left. So just spawn in, do a quick spin, if you get a ping, then go for it. So yeah, that's it. Hope that helps. Thanks.